Let me do it again. Real property. Put that saying, are you ready for some football?
Yeah.
Well, we're ready to learn how big a football field is. That's one of the things we'll learn tonight, is how big a football field is. Because that's part of measuring.
An acre or 2 acres?
It's close to an acre.
Oh, close.
We're going to get to that in a minute. We're going to learn how legal description of land is defined, how property is measured, be able to recall vocabulary. And y'all remember, vocabulary, you're dead in the water if you don't know the vocabulary. We've got a whole sheet of vocabulary words that you need to know in there. Characteristics that influence the value of land. How appraisers value real property and understand issues with title. I'll give you just a quick title issue. I told you all about the bar that we're selling out in the western side of town. $150,000 for the building. They just got all, she got both sides of it. She's just as happy as she can be. She's going to get her one of those checks. Well, a lawyer called me today and said, you might want to get that seller to go down to the courthouse. He hadn't paid his property taxes in 5 years.
Wow.
Oh my.
5 years.
Somebody probably bought his.
Well, somebody has bought his tax certificate, but see, we're 5 years into it. They may have a tax deed by now. And he said, we're going to have to get this sorted out. It may not even be his anymore.
And y'all done already went through.
Yeah, we got it sold.
Yeah.
Maybe the new owner will want to sell it.
Yeah.
I gave him $150,000 for it today. He's got time. You think we care who's buying and selling it? We're the broker. But this is a title issue. And if you don't pay your taxes,
Right.
you can lose your property through the title. Methods of legal description. There are 3 types, ways that we can measure or describe property. We're going to look at measurements. We've looked at this before a couple of times. Valuation, the concept, what influences it. How do we do a comparative market analysis to determine how much a property is worth? And when we do it, it's called a comp or comparable, and they also call that a BPO, broker price opinion. Doesn't have to be a broker to do it, but when you do it, you can't call it an appraisal, even though it'll be a number real close to what the appraisers would say. And we're going to look at what real property, personal property is, and what goes with it, and how it determines which is which. We're going to look at the sales comparison, cost, income. This is your appraiser is a CSI investigator. C is the comparables, S is sales, and I is the income. So they're a CSI investigator, gathering up all the facts. What is clear title? Affect a title, things affect the title, like not paying your taxes will affect your title. What does recording it mean? Title insurance, what does that protect? Deeds, how do they work? A will, how does that transfer a property? Here we go. Originally, George Washington and Thomas Jefferson both were surveyors. In the original 13 colonies, they used what's called meets and bounds. Meets and bounds describe pretty much irregular shaped property. You see this, you've always got a starting point. It's called point of beginning. And it's got to go around and it'll describe going this way and then turning that way and then going another way. How many meets, think of the word meter. How many meters is distance, and bounds is direction that you're going. So it's going to be so many meets in this bounds, and it'll turn and it'll have something at these corners. When they started doing this originally, it might have just been a big rock. It would be a river. Yeah, they didn't have iron. They didn't have. We use rebar now. Y'all seen them. We're going to get one here in a minute. But they use a big. Think of Plymouth Rock when the Pilgrims came over and they crashed into Plymouth Rock.
Yeah.
That was the first monument. That was the point of beginning that they started measuring everything else. Rivers. That'd be pretty hard to measure a river with a standard, the way we measure stuff now in lots and blocks or rectangular survey. So they will say the property line is the middle of the river. But y'all are saying, what if the river changes? What do you think would happen? Property line changes, yeah. But it goes around and it meets up something else and then comes back around and it has a point of ending, which is its point of beginning. That's a meets and bounds. The first type of survey has monuments, Plymouth Rock, and then it has benchmarks and different things like that to where you have a point that you're going to turn. Definition of a legal description is sufficient that a surveyor may find the boundaries. That's all that's required. Just you can have a legal description just with words. Let's say it starts here, it goes there, it goes around, and a surveyor can start there. And he can go around the property markers and mark it out. Meets and bounds, got that with George Washington. Point of beginning, got that. Monuments. Monuments are more important than the distance. Alright, we just said rivers can change. So if we said it's 100 feet to the corner, well that may have been the river and now the river's only 90 feet. That's more important than the feet. It's the boundary, the marker, the benchmark that we're going after.
That's a motion, right?
Yeah, benchmark, I even pull the definition out of the dictionary for benchmark. It says a mark on a stone, post, or other permanent fixture at a point whose exact elevation position is known, used as a reference point in surveying. That's benchmark. There's another one that we use called datum. Datum is elevation. And it says, surveying any level surface line or point used as a reference in measuring elevations. Datum is elevation. Benchmark is that point. Down at the bottom, a street address. You think that'd be good enough for a legal description? Well, I hope, yeah, because it says there, it says no, that's not enough. Why do you think that is?
Because it just says this. There's no details or anything.
No details or anything. Everybody in here's got a GPS. You can put in, 123 Main Street, and it gives you a list. It may be 12 properties on there, 123 Main Street. Be different cities, different places, maybe in the same city, not too far from it. So that wouldn't do it. You've got to give them more to go for, because the title people, they need actually either the legal description or they need the parcel ID number. And that's what you find on the tax records. So the street address is not enough. This is a corner on a survey. Y'all seen these pink tape? Everybody in here has seen this pink measuring surveyor tape. I don't know if that's a color they all use. They've all got together and said, let's use pink. I don't know. But that's what you see. And they'll mark it so, whoever paid for the survey can walk out there and say, there's the corner of my property. And notice here, the fence is kind of inside their property. That used to be a real common, so people couldn't put a fence back here and just hook. Because if your fence was right on the property line, you just hook to it. And you didn't have to buy that fence down that side. Some people will pull it inside so their neighbors can't. Makes for good neighbors, huh? This is a benchmark and a datum point. That's what they look like. They're a little brass. They're about 3 inches or so round. So y'all ever see one of these, you'll be able to say, we did that in real estate class. I found one of these. I'd never seen one. Been teaching about them for 10 years, and we were down at the Moundville Indian Mounds down south of Tuscaloosa.
Mm-hmm.
And we were walking around on top of one of those Indian mounds, and there was a benchmark right there. And I said, whoa, here it is, they actually exist. All right, that's all we need to know about meets and bounds. Next one we're going to look at is called rectangular survey or geodetic survey. That's the government survey. So you got 3 different names for the same animal there. These are based on grid systems. Think of the Alabama line, the top of the state. You got a state line up there. It goes, bumps up against Tennessee, starts over at Mississippi, goes to Georgia, straight across. That's a baseline. That's a baseline. That's where we start, right there. We're starting right here. And we're going to come down 6 miles, and now we're going to call them township lines. You see me standing here looking kind of like a T? And you're doing the test, thinking, well, Steve looks like a T there, and his arms are like this. Township lines go this way. Every 6 miles, there's another one. 6 more miles down, there's another one. And they just keep dropping all the way down.
You
Now-
can see them?
So they're horizontal, they're always horizontal?
Always horizontal. Baseline, township lines, always horizontal. Looks just like this. A T, township. Now I did say grid, didn't I? Hard to make a grid out of just one line. So we're going to come up with another line that's this way. That's the vertical line. That's the range line. Y'all heard of being down range? Well, this is down range. You got to have a starting point. Well, the Georgia line over here is not straight. It kind of goes in this way. The Mississippi line's kind of goofy over here too. So they said, well, we can't use either one of those. So let's kind of go over a little bit where we can get a straight line. And they said, let's use something everybody can identify with, Huntsville. So they drew a line through Huntsville, all the way down. And then they went 6 miles out from that. So each one of those grids, 6 miles this way, another one, got here, and there's 6 miles that way. So we've got 6 miles
By 6 miles.
by 6 miles. That's called a township. We're going to divide that later on into sections, but for right now, we're just going to go with 6 miles by 6 miles. Okay? That's up here in the top part of the state. Down in the bottom part of the state, they use the same system, but they start at the Florida line and count up 6. Because they had 2 different groups of surveyors, one working down, another one working up. Can you imagine what it's like there where they came together? Oh, we're going to talk about those are fractional lots. Government lots, they call them. That's what it looks like. See there at the top of the line, top of the, right there? That's our first township or base line. Every 6 miles, all the way down. See, here we are down here. It says, the way you identify these is the township is 19 south. Y'all see that? And it looks like from Huntsville, we're 3 west. So you can identify that township by saying 19 south, 3 west, Huntsville Meridian. And that would put you within 6 miles by 6 miles. And you could tell any surveyor in the whole country, you could say township, 19 south, 3 west, Huntsville Meridian. I know about where that is. And from there, they could zero in on a piece of property that big. See, it kind of gets goofy there in the middle. Township lines, this way. Range, this way. Now, from the township, I said we had 6 miles by 6 miles. Inside that, we're going to divide that up into 1 mile squares. Each one of the little squares inside the township is called a section. And there are 36 of those inside a chunk of land that's 6 miles by 6 miles.
So that's how the whole state is measured.
Divided, yeah, there's, I figured, there are about 1,800 townships in Alabama.
Yeah, and that's how the whole state is just measured up like that.
Yeah, whole state. So, like, here we are, we're about 19 south of the Huntsville, Tennessee line, and we're about 3 west over, so we can say 19 by 3, and that tells us, you know, right there. Now from there, you give the section number. Remember we had 19 south, 3 west, you can put one more number with it, and that's the section number. If we were inside number 1 right, let's say we're inside number 36 right here. We'd have 19 south, 3 west, 36. And now we're down to 1 mile by 1 mile.
It's coming.
You see?
It's coming.
It's not rocket science. They came over on a boat doing it. Ran into Plymouth Rock and said, this is the hard way to do it. Let's come up with something we can just draw lines.
Yeah, that's simple, 6 by 6 is 36.
Yeah, it's real
Oh,
simple.
but you saying it going to a separate one
Well,
of those. You were saying that is.
We had the township up here. That's a township. The township has 6 miles across, 6 miles
Each
down.
one.
So each one of those is 1 mile by 1 mile.
Okay.
That's this. So we're just drilling down deeper.
Okay.
This is called a section that's within the township, which is within the state. Now that we're in the section down here, it's 1 mile by 1 mile.
Okay. That makes sense.
Now remember the other day I said I want y'all to write some numbers on the back of your hand? Y'all said, I can't take that into the state test. Well, I want you to wash it off where you go in there, but one of the numbers that you need to write on there is 640. Because there's 640 acres in one section. They're going to say how many acres are in a section. There's no way, I can't come up with an easy way to remember that, so I'm going to say write it on your hand. And then be sure and wash it off where you go in there. They'll look at your hand and they say, you went to state school, didn't you? Let me look at your hand. 640 acres. They'll say, how many acres are in a quarter of a section? Well, you got to know that 640.
So we got divided by
4.
Here they'll say, how many acres are in this green chunk right here? You can do it the easy way, using an equation, if you want to write that on your hand. But the easier way is to say, okay, I know it's this big, this big, this big. We've got 640 acres in this section. All right, well, that's 1/4 of that. And that's 1/4 of that. So I just divide the 640 by 4 and then by another 4. And then tell me how many acres are in that little chunk right there. And I believe 80, that sounds right to me. Now, since this is a government survey, we're going to have to do it backwards. Yeah, y'all laughing. Yeah, it's government. Everything is government. It's backwards. So we're going to look at the last word in the sentence, and that's where we're going to start. To identify this piece of property right here, we've got to start with the description, which is the northeast. We want to start with the last thing in the sentence. We know where the 19 south is, the 3 west. We already know that. We're in section 36. We knew that. Now we know those things. It says the southwest quarter, that's south and west of the northeast quarter. So that's the north and the east in that. So that describes that piece of property. And there where we divided it comes down. Now we've got another way to look at it. All the sections look just alike. They're all numbered the same. And it's goofy the way they number it. Remember, it says government. Government survey,
That's why I
just think of
started-
everything being backwards.
That's why I started how you told it like that. It was backwards.
It is
But,
backwards, it's government survey, so you're gonna start, and instead of starting here where we think we should, they're gonna start over here and come backwards. The 6, and then they drop down and go that way, and just like you plow on a field, back and forth. So all of them fit together the same. This one looks just like that one, like that one, that one, that one, they're all the same. Now what they're gonna mess you up on, they're gonna say, which section is south of 36? Well, you gotta remember how this thing was numbered, 1, 2, 3, 6, and then 36 is down here. So which section is south of number 36?
1.
It's gonna be 1. They can say which section's east of 36. You just gotta remember how these, they're like Legos.
6.
They all fit together exactly alike. And the day I told y'all, Oak Mountain, 5 miles down Highway 280. Remember that?
Yeah.
That's another number I want you to write on your hand. 5,280. Because a section, that's how big a section is, 5,280. And they're gonna say, how many feet of fence does it take to go around a section? Well, you gotta, how big's a section? It's 1 mile. So you gotta have that 5,280 stuck up here somewhere. So just think, I'm in Homewood and I gotta go 5 miles down Highway 280 to get to Oak Mountain. 640, I'm here, we're gonna, the acre. We touched on this once before, but an acre is 43,560 square feet. That's another number you just can't remember. It's just too goofy to remember that in any way you want to remember it. So I'm going to say if you're on the way to this test, and you can't remember how many square feet in an acre, you can stop at the 7-Eleven store and ask the clerk, can you tell me how many square feet are in an acre? And he'll say, yes, the 7 is 4 plus 3, and 11 is 5 plus 6. Y'all see that? 43 is 4 plus 3, 5 plus 6 is 11, so that's a 7-Eleven store. You're going to have some question on this test that you're going to need to know how many square feet are in an acre.
True.
True, he says.
True story.
True story. Not going to tell you wrong. Now, started out the session with, are we ready for some football? Well, everybody's seen a football field. We've been to a football game. We can look out there and just, you can look out here in the front of the building and say, a football field, go right there. That's about how big an acre is. 43,560 feet in an acre. A football field is 150 feet by 300 feet. Not goal post, but the goal line and the sides. That's 45,000 square feet. So somebody said, how big do you think this piece of property is? I said, I can maybe put 2 football fields on there. It's a couple acres. About. Here's another interesting one. A Walmart store, one of those big Walmart, 3 acres. That's how big they are.
The whole town.
The other store, they're about
The super store.
125,000 square feet inside a super Walmart. So next time y'all go to Walmart, say, whoa, this is how big 3 acres is. Another one, 208.71. Don't need to get that precise on this. If you want to ever get that precise, just put in 43,560 and hit the square root key. But to think about how big a people's property is, this lot is 200 feet across the front and it's 200 feet deep. How big is it? Say, about an acre. That's how you're gonna measure. Don't get exact. You don't need to get out your measuring tape and say 208.71. No, it's 200 by 200, that's just about an acre. Close enough. Okay? In our township, since everything's square, is the earth square?
Sure.
Well, it says round.
It's a flat, like a pancake.
It's flat, yeah, I've been hearing it's flat.
That's what I've been
It
hearing.
is.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
watch
yeah,
it
yeah.
on YouTube.
Now, YouTube is flat on YouTube, but let's just pretend the earth is round. And since
Is it
we're
flat
gonna,
or round? Which one is it? It's flat.
we're gonna edit that out.
Hey,
For the sake of real estate school, let's say the earth is round and a flat, square system that's this big is gonna have some corrections because the lines are gonna, if they just went straight there, well, yeah, they got curves. So as they curve toward the north, they have to have corrections. So every 24 miles, by 24 miles, they'll have a correction where that side will just kind of pull in a little bit. We got a picture of one here in a minute, but those are called fractional. Fractional, or government lots.
So do they automatically change them every 24
Yes.
square mi- 24
Yes.
miles?
Yes. If the earth is, if the earth were not round, we wouldn't have to do this. This is what fractional shares, government lots look like. So it's not a full section. It's,
So going back to your original picture of the state, that was that middle line and the bottom line and that left
right.
vertical line.
Well, that vertical line that you're seeing there is the St. Stephen's meridian down in the southern part of the state. You don't need to know that. Just remember they were coming from the south and they were coming from the north measuring. And
Oh, that's when they came.
that's
together.
when they came up
They
with
were
all
doing
that.
different,
Yeah.
from different points.
And that was drawn perfectly square as a teaching method. But in reality, the earth really is round.
It's good to know.
Okay, that gets the rectangular survey. The next one is the lot and block survey, or recorded map survey. If any of you live in a subdivision, and I'm gonna tell you, builders don't like calling them subdivisions, they want to call them new home community. They don't like the word subdivision. So if you're living in a new home community, when you bought your property, you probably got something like this when you walked into the sales office. They had a map like this out on the, where everybody could walk around and look and say, oh, I want to live in cul-de-sac right on the end. Can I get that one? Well, if you want that one, this survey is going to have a 5 things in it. It's got to be, the state's got to be named, the county's got to be named, then the subdivision. This one says something acres amended, and then the block number will probably be this block, and then you've got a lot number. I see 1, 2, 3, 4. That's what you got to have, and you can find this lot. The surveyor can find it just by these 5 things. And then somewhere, well, in the county that this is recorded. And you can go in there and look at it. And it has like setback lines. You can't build within so many feet of the road. You can't build within so many feet of your neighbor. When you go in to buy a house in one of these, they'll have the little houses like little models. And they're made to scale. So if you want to buy the model that's 3,000 square feet, and you want to put it on a certain lot, they got one of those models, and they lay it in here and see if it'll fit. And if it won't fit within those setback lines, they'll say, pick another lot. And it'll fit on this one. Now there's one I tried to put everything goofy I could put on a survey. We've got different things going on here. You can see the survey where it's drawn. It says it's 192 feet across the back and 113 feet coming this way and down here, all this. Here's the main road out here. Well, I came in and I put underground subway line. Well, that wouldn't be on top of the ground, but it's underneath there. Can they do that?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure they can. They're not disturbing this property up here, but if you owned the everything under your land, then they would probably have to pay you
Right.
to use that. That's an easement. That's a gross easement. Utilities, things like railroad lines right here, power lines, they're gross looking. That's a gross easement. We've also got over here called a personal easement. This house right here has a lake behind it. And the owner told the little old guy that lives next door, you can come over and fish in my lake anytime you want to. That's a personal easement for him to walk over there and fish. Now, if either one of those people die, what happens to that easement?
Gone.
Away.
Dies too. How about this one?
Stays.
It stays. It's called a pertinent. It runs with the land. Transfers every time ownership changes, it changes, goes right along with the land. This survey that has the building drawn on it is called a spot survey. Spot has Spot's house drawn on it. And everything else, the driveway, the utility lines. Uh-oh, look at here. The neighbor built his garage over on your land. That's called an encroachment. Now you can leave him alone, just say, well, you already fished in my lake, you might as well have your garage or my house too. Or you could tell him, get it down. Or you could sell him a license to use it. There's a lot of things you could do to keep from going to court over that. But that's an encroachment. Okay, what else we got?
Serving and dominant.
Yeah, okay. Dominant and serving easements. Let's just say this, the road's right here, and they actually surveyed this out and had to put a driveway through here to get to this land. Now, these were big enough to where you could put another lot over here. They built another house here. Had it not been, the guy could have probably just pushed this easement over to the side. But he put it right here in the middle. Now, this piece of property, since this owner sold this piece of property, he's got to give them ingress and egress from that property. This would serve, this owner property would serve this owner. This one is the dominant easement, dominant tenement, I mean. And this one's the servient. Okay, we got anything else going on there? Sketch bulk zoning. Bulk zoning is where, let's just say this was on the approach to the airport. They may say nothing around here can be built over 400 feet tall. That's bulk zoning. It applies to everything in that area. Okay, good with that? All right, that was our 3 methods of measurement, descriptions. What were they? Meets and bounds,
Line block,
lot and block, not flat earth.
Sections.
Townships and sections.
What's that one called? Rectangular,
rectangular,
or government, or geodetic. It has all 3 names.
So any of those apply?
Yeah, any of those 3 words, rectangular, geodetic, or government, all 3 names say the same thing. Now, the meets and bounds were in the original 13 colonies. But once they started getting away from those, they went to the rectangular. Alabama must not have been one of the 13 colonies, huh?
Nope.
Was it?
Nope.
No.
It
About
was not.
Georgia.
Nope. Georgia was, I think.
Georgia, I think, was. So which one are they more likely to have more property surveyed under? Meets and bounds. Here, we saw how it was divided up. Now, you can have one survey based on another survey. A lot and block could be based on a geodectic. It's section 16, they would reference that, and then the meets and bounds would be within that survey. I hate to do it, we spent 45 minutes and there's only one question on describing property on the test.
That's it?
Only one question.
Well, I did have one that was terrible.
Yeah, it was terrible.
It was terrible.
Well, they wanna know how many, it's retarded, yeah.
It was terrible. It was a legal description. And you know what I said? We talked about that, but not that deep, Skip.
Yeah, so,
It was
so what it was is, and then they had one, like, how many, like, get the measurements of the property or whatever. Then they had the garage, where it was like, the back of the house was angled off and all this kind of stuff and blah, 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 and man, it was.
So we didn't even talk about that.
It was terrible.
No.
So,
Brush up on your geometry too, just in case you have a triangle. And basically what you just think of another one
Top of it.
there with it.
Yeah, put it as a square.
Yeah, make it into a square. And then you measure. Yes,
so
ma'am.
under lot and block, who assigns the lots and the blocks just under the original survey of the area?
You'll have a,
I mean, I have an
Property
old survey
developer.
of my house and it's really old because my house was built a long time ago. You know, it's
Probably
like.
meets and bounds. No,
uh,
just playing.
the George Washington
Okay,
connection.
I know I'm the oldest one in the room, but I don't think that.
Don't do it like that.
Please show.
Go ahead. So yours is, you got a drawing of it?
Uh-huh, and a long description.
Long description,
Very long
that's probably
description of
meets
the
and
area.
bounds. If it was lot and block,
It would have been a neighborhood.
you have 5 things in a lot and block. The state, the county, the community name, then the lot and block.
But that's just done by someone who developed the area.
Yeah,
In
so-
other words.
Well, no, right there.
Okay.
When a subdivider buys a big chunk of land, they have it engineered to where, because water's got to flow a certain way. You can't have all the water from here dumping onto that lot. So they gotta figure out, water drainage, and then they can divide up slopes and all that. Then they come up with this, they take it to the county, to the planning commission and say, here's what we came up with. What do you think?
So the county doesn't assign all that information?
No, the builders, the
Oh,
engineers are gonna assign all that, and then the county people are gonna look at it, and their engineers will look at it, and they may say, well, we're fixing to build a toxic dump right over here, and all the water's gonna run right through here, might not be a good place for this. And I guess that'd be a material fact then, wouldn't it? Alright, all that for one question. Wow, but at least now y'all know how to describe property. Because there should be more questions on this than one. Now I want to look at how we measure property. Livable area. You talked about the garage earlier. That's what they're talking about here. And then the land measurement itself. We looked at this. We had it earlier, just like this. Remember, we had the front footage. That's the first number you're going to get. Number across the front. They'll say 450 by 484. They're not going to say 450 across the front. They make an assumption that the first number is the front number. Sometimes it'll be property in this area sells for $100 per front foot. Your lot's 400 feet by 484. How much is it worth at so much per foot? You gotta say, oh, I wonder which number I use. No, you're gonna know, you're gonna use the first one as the front number. You multiply front times depth, that gives you square footage. This particular one, let's see, we got Spot's house first. Remember, if it's drawn on the survey, it's a spot survey. So we got Spot's house here. Spot's house is 60 feet by 40 feet. So we're going to multiply those two, and his house is 2,400 square feet. That's gross amount of space. We're going to get into it in a minute. Yeah. They have started putting volume on the test, and I think that would only refer to industrial, like a Home Depot with its 20-foot ceilings. The landlord wants to get paid for all that, so it's going to be front foot times depth times height. And then we've got cubic square feet. Got square feet on the floor, cubic feet going up. Spot's house, we got that. If it was 10-foot ceilings, it'd have 24,000 cubic feet in it. And Spot's house, even though it's 60 by 40, 2,400 square feet, only the heated and cool above ground counts as livable area. There's some other things that go into it, like it's got to have conventional heating and cooling. If you got a room built down in the basement, it's just got a window unit, they don't count that. The basement actually doesn't count. You got to say, well, why not? It's all finished in, and you put a whole nother family down here. Well, in the tax records and figuring the appraiser, he's just looking at the top. Now he'll mention this is bottom's finished in, and it's probably worth so much, but you think the basement finished in area is worth as much as the main level finished in area?
No.
No. But if it's heated and cool, it would, right?
It's still not going to be worth as much. So they have to account for that. But what we're looking at now, let's just say it's a one-level home, 2,400 square feet, and it's got a garage, 20 feet by 20 feet. So how big is that garage? 400 square feet. We got to take that off of the 24, so there's only 2,000 square feet of livable area in this house. Y'all with me? We're good. Now we know how big his house is. Let's look at how big the lot is. 450 by 484. That is 217,800 square feet. How do I figure how much that's worth? I don't have any, yeah, we're going to have to convert that number to something we can use.
Acre.
An acre. And how many square feet in it? Don't look here. How many square feet are in an acre?
43,000. 711.
711. 43,560. We're going to divide the 217 by that, and just so happens that's 5 acres. Now that
How lucky was that?
I can't imagine who did that. That number we can work with, because we can look at in the market and what has sold around here by the acre. And we found, whoa, thought I had some more there. Let's just say property around here is selling for about $30,000 an acre. And houses are selling for about $100 a square foot. See, because if this was a regular sized lot, we'd figure house and lot all as one package. But a 5 acre, 10 acre, 20 acre, you got to look at the land value in addition to the house value. All right, take a break here. What are the 3 methods of legal description?
Light block. Meets and bounds.
What makes a legal description sufficient? A surveyor.
Information collected through a survey.
A surveyor's got to be able to mark the pins, the corners. The surveyor's got to be able to find that lot.
Yeah.
Is a street address sufficient for a legal description?
No.
No. Meets?
Yes.
That's the length. That's
Meters,
the
yeah.
distance,
Think of
yeah.
meters, meets
Bounds
meters.
is where they connect.
Bounds is direction,
Turn,
compass
which
direction. It'll say 100 feet, 360 degrees. And you go off 100 feet, 360 degrees. What's the point of beginning
Starting point and ending point.
and the ending point? Another name for rectangular survey? Let's put this one on Fran, because she just, a minute ago, she gave me all three of them.
Survey?
Government survey. It's got another name?
Geosat.
Geodetic, yes. There's all three of them. Which direction do township tiers run? There we go.
East, west.
Looks like a T. They run this way, from the Mississippi line to the Georgia line. Intersection of the township tier and ranges are called what?
The intersection of
The
township.
tiers and the
And the
ranges.
ranges are called what? The intersection.
Township, no.
Yes,
Oh, okay.
yes. It's called a township.
I just think another township too.
And there's, how many sections are in the township?
36.
36. How big are they?
1 miles.
1 mile by 1
mile.
mile, so the township is
6 by
6
6.
miles to 6 miles. Ah, maybe I was reading ahead there. There we go, 640 acres. Remember to write that on your hand now. 640, 43,560, and what's the other one want you on there?
He's still putting it in. 700.
Well, we got that one, 42,560, 640, and there's one more,
5,280.
5,280.
Oh,
Three numbers you
5
got to
miles
know.
5 miles down to 8.
5 miles down 280.
And what's that?
I know.
I'm just playing. That's Old Mountain.
Here's how we describe this piece of property. According to a government survey, we start at the end of the sentence and come backwards. The southeast quarter, southeast. Well, that's the south and east. Yeah, I got
Do they have to write it like?
Are you describing the whole thing?
Well, I'm describing the southeast quarter. I got a line there and down there, so that's the southeast quarter right there. The next thing is the northwest quarter of the southeast. That's going to be north and west, so that's going to be there. And then the southwest quarter of that will be south and west, so that little piece would be right there. See that? You go backwards. You identify that one, then the next one, then the next one. Here I broke it out. We got a total of 640 in the section. A quarter of it is 160, half, and then you have quarters. And I marked it here. That's the same thing we just saw.
Yeah, that's 160.
That.
It's a quarter of a quarter of a quarter.
Yeah, quarter of a quarter of a quarter. All right, we're going to see how we can shorten that if they say, how many acres are in here? How would we do that? We can use the 4 there, the 4 there, the 4 there. Multiply those across to get 64, divided into the total of 640, and it says there's 10 acres. You can do it both ways. You can break it down. I got a quarter of 640 and do that, and then I got that one and work it down and get it that way. Or this is the shortcut. Use your denominators, multiply them, and then divide it into the total 640. How many acres in a quarter of a section? 160, yeah. You divide 640 by 4.
I thought it was so good again.
How many square feet are in an acre?
43,560.
There we go. 7-Eleven store. There we go. Ask them at the 7-Eleven. surveyor's daughter was in one of my classes. She said, "It's how they taught my dad to learn that." Oh, can I use that? I have to give her credit though every time. Every time I use it, I have to give her credit for it. What elements must be included in a lot and block description?
Lot, lot, state, county,
Name of the subdivision.
Name of the subdivision. State, county, subdivision name, block, and lot. Sketch survey, it just shows the dimensions of the property. A spot survey has everything drawn on it. Spot's house is drawn on there. Oh, well, we'll let Ontario take this one. What's an ad valorem tax? We haven't talked about that yet. The slide's out of order. So let's move on. Let's stop right here and take our break, and then we'll come back and talk about property valuation. So we spent an hour and a half getting one question. Some more fun. We got one question tonight. Normally, I guess we get to about 20 per night. So that means we got a lot of work to do in the next hour and a half.
All right.
Where's everybody sitting?
This chair is open, but you got stuff in it.
Real problem.
Okay.
And this chair is open.
James, are you just get
Dan's
showing
gonna
me?
have to give you some room.
I'm sorry?
Oh, you lean back too far.
You're laying in her lap. I'm not gonna have that in this room.
I'll go back to that.
I just did that.
Alright, I think we're ready to get going. Property valuation. We're going to talk about the concepts and terminology. Again, terminology, vocabulary, big part of the test. What influences value? How do we come up with a value? By comparing it to other properties that are sold around there. If everything around here is sold for $100,000, just like the house you got on the market, you call me up and say, "Hey Steve, I want to get 150 for mine."
Not gonna happen.
Not gonna happen, that's right, because we're gonna talk about principal substitution, broker price opinion, and the difference in real and personal property. Okay, here we go. We have, with real property, we have a bundle of rights that come along with it. And we have a convenient acronym to remember that. UP'd.
You peed.
UP'd.
Like Y-O-U or you?
Yeah,
Okay, I see it.
UP'd. That's our acronym. I didn't make it up. I just used it. Somebody said, "Hey, this works." What it is our bundle of rights. Each one of those, we'll get into it in just a second here, what those bundles are. And the different parts in there can be sold or leased or licensed or given away, inherited. There's lots of different things you can do with each piece of that bundle of rights. You've got things called appurtenances. Learn that word. That's a vocabulary word you're going to see again. Appurtenance. We talked about it on that survey a few minutes ago about the land, the subway and the railroad easements. Those are appurtenant. They run with the land. No matter how many times that land changes hands, appurtenant stays with the land. It runs with the land. Now, they can be an appurtenant right that goes along with that. Maybe a fence. You can see that. That's tangible. You can touch it. There's another one like the air rights, the solar rights, the mineral rights. You can't see those, but you know they're there. They're intangible.
Those things you can't touch it.
The tangible you touch, intangible you think about. Your brain can touch it, but you can't touch it. How do we come up with value? Well, we gotta look first at the bigger picture. What's going on in the bigger economy? Is the United States economy growing or shrinking? Property values around the country, are they going up? Are they stable? They're going down. You gotta look at the bigger picture first. Because somebody that's looking at property here and our prices are maybe going down, but somewhere, so say Atlanta, that close to us, property values are going up, where's an investor gonna buy? They're going over there, they're going where the opportunity is. So you gotta know what the bigger picture is. Then you get into the tighter picture, the local picture, what's going on there. Personal and real property. You go down to a seed store and you buy a seed. Is that personal or real property?
Personal.
Personal property. Now you take that seed and you plant it in the ground and a tree starts coming up. Is that personal or real? Real property. The tree grows just out there in the wild. That's called naturalis. And frutus naturalis. It's just growing naturally. But what if you had planted corn seeds all in a row, all in the acres? That's called frutus industrials. That's where you're doing it to harvest it. But our seed is just a single little seed that came up as a little tree, frutus naturalis. Now it grows on up and it becomes a big tree. Is it real or personal?
Real.
Real. Now somebody comes along and cuts it down, it's laying on the ground. What is it now? It's personal now. You send it to the sawmill. You cut it up into lumber. What is it?
Real.
Still, no?
Personal.
Personal. It's personal property.
Right.
Belongs to the sawmill.
Yeah.
Now the sawmill sells it to a builder.
Personal.
Has it changed yet?
No. It's still-
Now the builder puts a nail in it, two of them, nail them together. What has happened to it?
It's still real
It's
property.
become real property now. Same piece of tree that you just cut up, somebody takes it and makes a chair for their front porch. Real or personal?
Personal.
Personal. See how you can go back and forth, but you can follow, if it's attached to the land, it's going to be real. Now we can say, well, how's it attached? It may not be real. It may be still personal. You can take a picture and hang it on the wall. You attach that to the wall. Is it real or personal?
Personal.
It's still personal, because that's your picture. You didn't intend for that to become part of the house. When you sell the house, that's not going to go with it. So your intentions are a big part of how it's attached. Okay? Here are characteristics that give real property its value. First, we were talking about local property versus, say, Atlanta property. That property is going up in value every day. Is there a demand for that?
Yes.
Here, the property is going down every day. Is there demand?
No.
No. So that affects it. Next one is utility. Can you use it for what you want to use it for? All right. We got raw land out here. Can we build houses here, or is it a swamp?
Swamp.
Okay, that's gonna affect whether we can use it. Swamp, pretty much it's gonna be wetlands. Can we build in wetlands?
No, you shouldn't.
Yeah, you couldn't. The government would be coming after you. Scarcity. Is there plenty of land? Or is there only one buildable lot
Not a lot
left?
of land.
Yeah, not a lot of, there's only one buildable lot left in this community. Has it got value because of its scarcity?
Yes.
Yes, but it's just been developed. Every lot in here is for sale. You're gonna have a hard time getting your dollar for that first lot. Somebody's gotta say, yeah, I think it will be worth it. But then once others jump on the speeding bus, then you establish a value. Transferability. I've bought it. Can I sell it? And that's going to come down to a lot of things like taxes. like the one we just talked about, the guy hadn't paid his taxes in 5 years. Gonna be difficult to transfer that right now. Something else is gonna happen. You see, we've got a convenient acronym for this, DUST. Your property gets dusty. It's dusty. It has all these things: demands, utility, scarcity, and transferability. Our friend is the substitution principle. It can also be our enemy. If I can go out here and buy something just like it next door for less money, which one am I going to buy?
Less money.
The one for less money. Other things being equal. The one for less money may be next to a railroad track.
It's not substitution.
It depends on who wants to live there.
Yeah, who wants it? Is there a demand based on, is it going to be this or that or the other? So the maximum value is set by what's available as a substitute. That's the foundation of what we call the sales comparison approach. The C in the CSI investigators tools. Then we got the principle expectation. We're going to base our actions on what we think is going to happen. We're sitting here right now rocking along. Prices are going up, let's just say year over year, 1.2%. That's what we saw the other night, 1.2% year over year. Do we think it's going to be worth more next year?
1.2.
It's hard to extrapolate into the future, but just seeing the trend, you think maybe it should go up. But what if we're seeing that trend line going down 1.2? And was that last year it dropped, and the year before we're seeing it going like this? What are we going to do? Are we going to buy now?
We're going to wait till it gets
We're
all the
going
way
to
down.
wait. We're going to wait until it settles down. Y'all remember 2008?
Yes.
Y'all remember what happened there? That was we call it a speeding bus. Everybody jumped on the speeding buses. It was getting away from the terminal because prices were going up 10% a year. And it'll never stop. I promise. It'll go up 10% next year and probably 20% the next year. You better buy it today. A lot of people got caught because they jumped on that speeding bus because they anticipated that prices are just going to keep going up. They're never, ever going to stop going up. Yeah.
Inflation goes down.
Yeah, they did. Now prices will depend too on what's happening in the city. Let's just say, let's look at Birmingham, since we're here in Birmingham. We're south of town. Was there anything here in 1950?
Just the mine.
Just trees.
Yeah.
Even nobody wanted, yeah, well, right here where we're sitting, right here in Hoover.
Mm-hmm.
Was Hoover even here in 1950?
It wasn't, oh,
Probably
When
not.
did Hoover here? Yeah, they kind of Homewood, and then they had that big mountain, and there was one little skinny road that went up the side of the mountain. Nobody wanted to go up that skinny little road. You would fall off. People didn't want to come down here. This land was worthless.
It was like a swamp.
It was like a swamp. There was nothing here anybody wanted. Then, after, I think it was right after World War II, they got their machines and cut a nice big 4-lane coming up that mountain. Now you could come over the mountain. All of a sudden you had access to this that you didn't have before. What did that do to the value here? People wanted to come here because this is all, I can move out here, I don't want any neighbors around me. And that's what happened. You'll move toward another town. You can look at a satellite picture of this area. And you've got Birmingham, you've got Hoover Metro, and then you've got Tuscaloosa sitting over here. And it's kind of not a whole lot going on in between those. But if you think in future, where are people going to want to be? If I was going to develop a business to where I had customers in Birmingham, Tuscaloosa, Hoover, I might be looking where those are coming together.
Connecting.
Yeah, where those are all connected. if I've got a distribution center that I got salespeople going out and I got customers coming in, that may be the place you'd want to be.
Depends on your age.
Yeah, depending on my age, I'm thinking, yeah, I probably don't want to think that long term. A lot of towns develop around transportation nodes, such as a river. You've got a lot of towns, the river is why they're there.
Or were there?
Or there, yeah. Birmingham, why did it develop?
Steel, man.
Iron.
Iron.
Yeah,
We had the three things you needed to make steel here. We had
Red Rock,
red rock, which was the iron.
Limestone.
What else do we have?
Red
Limestone.
River,
Lime.
and we had to do, train, right?
We had rivers.
Well, they didn't develop by the river.
Access.
Well, that was the problem. Bessemer actually used to be bigger than Birmingham because that's where the river was. And they could bring the coal in there, they could bring the lime, they could bring all these things in. Why do you think US Steel is where it is? Because they could get the raw materials to it. Birmingham was sitting over here, there wasn't anything here.
Bessemer's older.
Bessemer's older and was bigger than Birmingham at one time. So things develop based on, usually on transportation hubs. You can look at what has happened around after the interstates came through. Little towns that weren't even on the map before, all of a sudden they've got an interchange where people can get off the interstate and they'll build a Walmart right there and all of a sudden a city will pop up. You gotta be able to get in and out of the cities. So you believe the Fierce County gonna grow? All right, who wants to buy rental property near Jacksonville, Alabama now? Y'all know what happened at Jacksonville?
So now, everybody wanna buy it now.
We had a military base there, Fort McClellan,
They
Yeah.
closed it and
closed it. What do you think that did to property values around that military? Yeah, why would you buy a rental property there now?
the hope is that they bring the military base back.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Another one, Fairfield.
Dead.
Dead, that used to, people, that was a good job
That was
50
good.
years ago.
US Steel now.
US Steel, those are the good jobs here. Everybody worked at US Steel, made a good living, had nice houses. Now what's there? They got robots pouring the steel and doing
But it
every,
still closed for a while though, that's what did it.
yeah.
yeah,
That's
But
what
they
closed Walmart
Bunch
and
of
all
people up.
all that. So what do you think happened to the values in Fairfield of houses?
that.
Boom. You can buy houses in Fairfield, just pick up the taxes. Just get me out from under this.
$1.
Yeah, $1. I'll give you only $1. That's more than I want to pay. So what happened? It's what we think. I don't think I want to buy a rental property in Fairfield or Jacksonville. How about McCalla?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
For the future,
Amazon, yeah,
10 years, 20 years, 30 years,
Maybe.
definitely.
coming in there.
Growth.
Yeah, growth. Where's the city growing now? Look at Highway 280. 30, 40 years ago, it was a 2-lane road. Nobody wanted to go, unless you wanted to go to Lloyd's. You didn't go down Highway 280. Now, it's like a parking lot, 10 lanes, and you still can't move, because everybody wants to be down Highway 280.
And how long does it take them to get down when you could go to where the place for Buck's at?
Right. Why do you want to say, well, it's because everybody down here is just like me. We all work at UAV, and we want to all be just alike. Those are big jobs, aren't they?
Yeah.
High-paying jobs.
Yeah, you gotta ask us,
Big
you know.
balls.
Yeah. We all wanna hang out together,
That's
spend
right.
our money together.
Exactly. So it's what you think's going to happen is going to influence the values. Now we can take property and add it together. Let's just say you have 1 acre or 1 Yeah, you own one lot downtown Birmingham where they're wanting to build lofts down there. All right, can you do much with one 50-foot wide lot?
No.
But what if you could get the one next to you
Yeah,
and the one next to you, and then you've got the whole street? You think that's worth more
Right.
then one,
per square? Yeah, let's just say per square foot. I've got one lot. It's got a value. But if I can get all these lots per square foot, is it going to be worth more?
Yes.
a lot more.
That's
and
called
triple.
plottage.
So I
Plottage.
wish to do it that way.
That's what they're doing down there. That's called
Yeah.
plottage. The process of doing it is called assemblage. So we assemble them together for a bigger plot. What's the highest and best? Well, downtown now, it's, I want to build a loft, or I want to build a condo project, and then they go a block this way and a block that way, and they're going up, what, about 5 stories right now? And they're like on every block.
Yeah.
Where are those people coming from?
Atlanta.
Out of town, probably.
Atlanta.
Where they can, they're coming where they can't work to places they can.
Yeah, they got those good jobs at UAB. They've heard about that.
I had so many people moving from Atlanta, especially because their schools and stuff are pretty much overloaded, and our price for rent over here was a lot less.
That's what they're seeing.
Mhm.
The
So
grass is greener over here, so that's where I'm
and
going.
our traffic compared to theirs.
Okay? There's a word down the bottom of that called situs, S-I-T-U-S. Know that word? That's your preference for a site. And an appraiser, what they're looking at, that when they go appraise some property, the first thing they've got to look at is what is the highest and best use for this piece of property. Not necessarily what's on it right now.
Future.
Yeah, what can be put here, and that will determine the value of that property. Got a couple things that influence the value. One is depreciation, and that is loss of value from any reason. It could be people don't want to be here anymore. That's an economic loss that's going to bring the value of that property down. Land itself normally does not affect you. They used to say land doesn't depreciate, but I remember 2008. Everything depreciated in 2008. Builders got caught holding lots they had paid $30,000 for that are not worth $30,000 anymore. But used to, they said land does not depreciate. So you got to kind of take that with, maybe it can.
Grain of salt.
Yeah.
Let me
grain of
ask you
salt.
something. What year was it in 1980s that we pretty much started that as well? Because my grandparents were building at that time. And we had a whole bunch of he was a builder and real estate and broker, and we pretty much had to sell everything, lost a whole bunch of money, and moved up to Gatlinburg.
That was 87, I believe, 87, 88, 89, right
So
along
we're
in
looking at
there.
a 20-year
Crash,
gap in
yeah.
between both of them.
Yeah, some people get real specific on that and they say, well, it's time for another one. You never know.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, the train's still rolling.
Yep, it's slowing down.
Yeah, we gotta be, watchful. Now, improvements, that's what depreciates. You build a house, and over time, it's going to depreciate just because it's old. People don't like blue and pink bathrooms anymore.
1950s.
Yeah, 1950s bathroom, 19...
Green
And
and.
it be bright too.
Yellow.
Well, so you-
Ugh, and then.
Oh, my.
So you probably never seen shag carpet either.
Look, I probably had.
Shag carpet was a thing back in the 70s. Now you walk in the house, got shag carpet, you're like,
Yeah.
whoa! That would depreciate it
Oh, well.
a lot.
Yeah, because probably nobody's been living in it for a long time.
Yeah, it's worn down, it's not shag anymore. Deterioration. Deterioration is where you're not taking care of the property. You just living there. You're not painting it. You're not changing your air conditioner filter.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, that's going to wear out the air conditioner faster. But the paint is going to really get you because now the paint's gone and the water's getting to the wood. The wood's going to rot. Next thing you know, the house falls in. So the deferred maintenance, bad thing. Obsolescence. That's another thing that depreciates a house's value. Let's just say you got a 5-bedroom, 1-bath house. Would that be something you'd want to buy?
Not now.
Not now.
I'd rather have a 4-bedroom and 2.5 baths.
That's how we may be able to fix it. That's how we can take one of those bedrooms, turn it into a bathroom. Now we got something that people want.
You put 5 people in.
What, just
Have
think,
one bathroom.
think back 100 years ago, they didn't have bathrooms in houses.
Oh, he was outside.
Okay, so.
Didn't have plumbing, didn't have electricity.
It
So-
was cold when they walked out to that
Yeah,
outhouse.
so you put one bathroom in a house 100 years
That
ago.
was the Acreage.
That was a
yeah.
mansion.
Yeah,
That was the, oh yeah, I got a bathroom
But
in the house.
there was still the outhouse outside that mansion.
They finally put a
They didn't even put the kitchens in the house back then. Because you cooked with wood and that burned the house down. You'd rather just burn the kitchen down than the whole house. Things change. Yes, sir.
Well, yeah, it was, you know, you hang your food out and let it dry, so,
Yeah,
because you have no electric running.
things change.
He said,
So a 5-bedroom, 1-bath, that was the nicest house on the block 100 years ago. Yeah, it wouldn't have much value today. You'd say, I don't think I want that. And probably, they didn't even paint them back then. So that wood's probably in bad shape. So you've got, can it be cured? Can this obsolescence be cured? And that's where we're looking at, yeah, maybe one of these bedrooms can become a bath. Now, is it gonna cost more to do that than we're gonna get out of it?
We'll
Depends
see.
on taxes.
If it is gonna cost more, then we're not gonna do it. Let's just tear the house down, start over.
Couldn't you just put a bathroom in one of the houses? In one of the bedrooms?
Go back down house.
Yeah, we can put a little outhouse, maybe cut a hole in the bedroom wall, so I got an ensuite.
Like another thing to look at is the elevators are even in there. If you go in, see if the elevators are working and the parts are still, orderable.
Yeah,
I mean,
100-year-old elevator.
How about just building all apartments? Like we did when we got here from New York, tenements, everybody.
never see me in there doing it.
Well, that brings up that next one, a 4-story, office building they built in downtown Birmingham, say 120 years ago. It was a 4-story office building. Man, that was nice, but there's no elevator. How much is it going to cost to put an elevator in this building? Might not be able to function. I mean, no.
But that would still be grandfathered in too, right? Since, we didn't require elevators,
No.
and handicapped.
Well, you're looking at that old building. Probably got lead pipes in it,
Yeah,
asbestos.
yeah.
No HVAC, the electrical, is it up to code?
Everything.
There's so
Everything.
many things wrong there, you might just say,
You'll never get anyone to the inspector and never approve any of it.
now, you may say, what's it gonna cost to tear it down? Now, what's the value of the land, and let's take that cost off of it, that's what I give you for it. Now, we got some other obsolescence that's external to our property. Let's just say something next door to you. There are no jobs in this county and things are tough, and we've decided it'd be a good idea to put a federal prison right there. Is that gonna affect the value of your land?
Yes.
Yeah, probably so.
It should make it safer.
Is it gonna bring your value up or down?
Down.
Down.
No.
Is there anything you can do about that?
No.
No way to cure that? Nothing you can do other than put your sign out front and say for sale?
Yeah.
Vote for Donald Trump.
Or a toxic dump next door to you? That would affect you. Improvements. You can do too much to a house. Let's just say you bought you a mobile home in 1973 when you got married. Single wide mobile home. Put it on a 1-acre lot out here in Hoover. You got a nice thing then. But things have changed. and I don't know how many years, 40, 50 years, has that mobile home gone up in value?
Yes. The land has.
The land has, but the mobile home itself,
No.
probably not. But what if you went in and remodeled it, and you put some Italian marble
Mm.
tile all
matter.
through it, and you put
Doesn't
some gold fixtures in the
It's a
bathroom,
mobile home.
That's
and some stainless steel, you put a
It's not
Sub-Zero
manufactured.
You fixed it to the
side by
ground.
side.
Are we, do we have a green card?
I tried it.
You did all these things. Did that mobile home have any more value?
No.
Probably not. You over improved it.
Mm.
You just spent just a little bit more than you should have there.
Unless you got the material for free.
But still, now, you can have an area like that and you bump that mobile home and they started building stick homes or regular homes, brick and mortar all around you. What's that gonna do to the value of your land?
We're gonna increase it.
It's gonna increase it. That's called progression. But let's just say the opposite happened. 1973, you got married, built your little 1,000 square foot home right here, and they started putting mobile homes all around you. What did that do to your value?
Decrease.
Probably pulled it down, where it's only value of the land at this point.
Oh, and mobile homes stay around a long time.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, there's some 1973 mobile homes around, up where the tactical firearms place is right up here in Hoover. That used to be a mobile home park. Sure was. Mobile home park right
They're
there.
actually in demand right now.
What is it now?
Well, it's a tactical firearms now. It was
Oh.
Bruno's before that.
Alright.
Bruno's bought it, and I don't know what they paid for it, but they cleared out all the mobile homes, built a grocery store, and then now it's a firearms place. All right, so we got progression, got regression. Interest rates, this is something that also affects value. Let's just say right now, interest rates are historically low. We can say that, about 4%.
4.7.
Something like that, that's historically low. First mortgage I had in the mid-70s was 6%. That was good. But let's just say, we can say that between 75 and 1980, the interest rates went from 6% to what?
11.
They were like
12,
12, yeah,
Eleven,
because my
13,
accountant bought one.
14, 15%.
All the way up to.
What
now,
did that
28.
do to your ability to finance a house? Could you buy more house for the same payment?
You get the same house with more money.
More payment. So you're gonna buy less house. So that's gonna pull the prices of houses down. So interest rates will affect the value of housing. Now houses, like they were, 6%, and then they started dropping, they got down to about 3%. You could buy way more house. And that's gonna push prices, the values of the houses up.
And
Something else that influences the value of a property that people are really not aware of, but on the first page of a sales contract, down toward the bottom, it tells you you've got 7 days to see if you can get insurance on it. Because if you can't get insurance on a house, can you get it financed?
No.
it depends where you're at. If you're in Florida, on the Gulf of Mexico.
It's gonna be awful, awful. It's called a clue report. You've got to call your insurance agent, say, hey, I'm buying a house a block from the Gulf, or I'm buying a house here, and they're gonna run a report on it. What kind of claims have been made against this house? Well, there have been 3 hurricanes hit it in the last 10 years. Are they gonna wanna insure that house? No. It's had 3 fires. No, it's been hit by lightning twice, it's been burglarized
Been
17
tornado alley.
times.
Then Tornado Alley.
Yeah, tornadoes hit it 3 times. They're gonna say, no, we don't want to insure that property. So you can bet that's gonna affect its value.
Price of the land is what?
You know, the land, I don't know that the land would even go up there, because you can't build anything on it. That's not gonna have those same risk characteristics.
Everybody take risks though.
Yeah, risk and reward. Increasing and decreasing returns. That's what we talked about with the mobile home a minute ago, and putting electricity and plumbing in a property. Up to a point, that mobile home that we were talking about earlier, instead of putting Italian marble floors in it, what if we put linoleum?
That's fine.
And instead of putting granite in the kitchen, we put laminate countertops. We'd be better off.
Yeah.
Chance of getting our money back.
Yep.
That's increasing, decreasing returns. I can probably get the linoleum and the laminate money back, but the granite and the Italian marble, probably not. We got 4 phases of development. We talked about Hoover when they first came over the mountain, came in here. That was development. It started to develop. They built communities here, they built communities there, they built everything to support it. Grocery stores, hardware stores, banks, drug stores, they all sprang up around here and developed, and then it hit stability. Now we're just kind of
Well,
here. Yeah, we're just floating along right now. Things are good, everything's okay. And then all of a sudden people don't want to be here, they want to be in Pelham, Montevallo.
or it's cheaper.
Yeah, there used to be a saying we had in this business called, you drive till you qualify.
Is that right?
You couldn't qualify for a house in Hoover, so you'd keep driving.
Clear.
Yeah, you may be in clear before you can afford the house. But that's what happens, we stabilized, and then all of a sudden the grass is greener in Pelham and Helena and on down that way. So what happens here?
It's stable.
They quit building because the demand is not there for new housing. The demand's on down here now. So what happens here?
Price goes up.
Well,
It should decline.
it should, and as the people quit buying here, the
Well, it
houses.
depreciates.
Yeah, it'll start depreciating.
Because the years go on
And
and
then
on.
people won't take care of them. And then they'll get in disrepair. All right, let's move back over the mountain a minute to Homewood. Can you see that cycle happening there?
Yes.
It declined, and now it's at the point to where people are going
Buy.
they'll buy anything. You got we used to call them VA houses. They built a bunch of those in Homewood. You know, a little 1,000 square foot, 3-bedroom, 1 bath, $10,000, 100% financing. As fast as they could build them. Then they quit building there and they came to Hoover. And then they went to Pelham. They just kept going. Well, now, Homewood, I'll give you $1 million for one of those. I just want the lot.
Yeah, that is one of the lot.
That's a
Old walk
question,
of
that's a
Soho.
question I have to ask you, what's gonna happen, in the future with, those $400,000 houses that 20 years ago they paid 75 for? What's gonna
It
happen?
depends on whether people want to stay there. Homewood, they're wanting to go back there now. And those houses, they're
And it's mainly because of the school system and it
Schools,
being close to the
there's a reason,
Yeah,
and
the
it's
demand.
close to town, it's, it's good, everything's great here. I think it's something like 97% or 95% of the graduates of Homewood High School go to college. Well, if I got kids that I want them to go to college, maybe I need to be there. So I'll pay more for that school system. That's what's happening in Homewood now. It's in the Renaissance stage. It's, boom, coming back. Soho, y'all been down
Yeah,
there?
that's what I'm saying. So
That used to be a lumber yard. It was gravel, Huffstetler's Hardware and lumber right there. It was just just normal little old store. Now it's
In the boondocks.
like $30 a square foot.
Wow.
So it's in a renaissance now. And here are those phases. You've got, first build all the houses in, stable, people moving in, everything's good, and then,
The yards quit getting
yeah, they
cut.
quit taking care of the yards, they park the cars out on blocks, and they put the refrigerator on the front porch.
Milk's $4.59 a gallon, gas is
And, from there, they'll start tearing those houses down and rebuilding. Those are your phases. That affects value. All boils down to what you think's gonna happen. You gotta look at the bigger picture and then zero in to where you are. Is this gonna be worth more next year or 5 years? Or am I better off going down to where they're building now?
Down.
go back to where it's cheaper.
It could be. We've got some properties in areas now that are cheap. In fact, they're selling for about what they sold for in 1970.
Right.
All right, here's, this is just a little article pulled off of, looks like Federal Housing Finance Agency. This was talking about prices had gone up 1.2% year over year, and this was 2015. That's exactly what they are this year. They're up 1.2% year over year. But can we extrapolate into the future and say,
It's gonna be 12%.
5 years from now, are they still gonna be going up at 1.2%? Yeah, it depends.
It really depends.
What's gonna happen? I don't know.
If interest rate affects it, the federal cut.
But why are they going up over 2% every year?
It's been a good economy lately.
Yeah, the economy, which is all what we think our expectations are that's gonna happen basis on what we will pay. This is what it was. That's 2007. Wham! You can see it was flat, and then it just started, almost went vertical, and then wham! It stopped, boom, 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 and then that's about 2015. We hit the bottom, and people say, "Okay, let me just wait a minute and see what's going to happen," and then it starts coming back, and it's coming back, and this only goes through 2015. So where's that line from there?
It's gonna go be up a little
It's
bit.
going, yeah, it's up some more.
Printing money?
Yeah,
Or is
that's
it
what keeps it going. Supply and demand. We have a little mnemonic here to help you remember supply and demand, because they like this question on the test. They love this question on the test because you've got 4 factors on supply and you've got 3 factors on demand. And you just can't remember these as a list. So I'll come up with a mental picture to help you remember. We've got labor availability. Do you have enough people to do the work? You've got the cost of the materials to build a house. Or is lumber, is it, you know, I can't buy lumber anymore. Is it at that level? Or I can get a truckload for $1.50. That's going to affect supply. Government policy. What is the government doing to promote homeownership? All right. Their position has been for years and years and years to give you incentives to buy a house, a mortgage deduction. You used to be able to take all that off your taxes. Every year, whatever you paid in taxes, you could take that off your mortgage.
Scary.
Well, they've capped it now. And I think, I don't know what it's, but this last tax thing, they capped that, put some restrictions on it. So that is going to affect supply. You got also fiscal policy. The Fed, y'all heard of them? Raising interest rates, lowering interest rates. Well, if you can get money at 3% or 6%, which is going to motivate you more to buy the house?
3%.
The 3%. Yes, sir. That's going to affect supply. So you got 4 things there affecting supply. Construction, worker availability, material cost, government policy, and physical policy. So let's put that into a picture So we can remember those 4 things. You've got a construction worker. See him standing there, he got his tool belt on, and nail gun on. It used to be a hammer, now it's a nail gun. Standing there in his construction outfit. Instead of nails, he's got golden nails. Yeah, that's a, whoa, we're using gold as nails now. And in addition to that, he's driving that nail. Well, is he using his air gun? He's putting his air gun or driving the nail, whichever one you want to see him driving that golden nail into the White House. And it goes on through the White House and hits the Federal Reserve. Hope it's next door. So you got 4 things there. You got a construction worker, golden nail, White House, Federal Reserve. That's how you're going to remember supply factors.
Okay.
Now, opposite side of supply, you've got demand factors. Now, in demand, we've got 3 things. We've got the growth of the population. Are there the same number of people here now that there were 50 years ago?
No.
No. How about 5 years ago? No. What about 5 years from now? Probably still going to be more people. So if the population's growing, is there going to be more demand for housing?
No. Yes.
Yes.
But there's still all this other houses that's
They're
available.
vacant. Yeah. Put them out in Midfield. Get out there cheap. Now you got the demographics of the population. How much money did they have? What are their buying habits? Those are the demographics of a population. Do they want to do this? Do they want to just stay where they are? So that, and then you've got the employment rates. How many people are working? Right now, we've got historical,
4.5%.
yeah, historical low numbers on unemployment right now. Will that affect demand?
Yes.
More people have a job, they can afford a mortgage,
No,
they can buy.
that don't mean that they can afford mortgage.
Yeah, it doesn't mean they can, but theoretically, they should be able to. So we got 3 demand factors. What are they?
They're the,
Population, babies.
Population growth, population growing, babies. You've got
That's-
demographics of the population, that's our old people. And then you've got employment rates.
I think
And-
that's one thing that we're gonna have to keep in mind too, is all our baby boomers are retiring, so those houses that they're living in, even though our population's growing, you know, our baby boomers are having to go into independent living, so we're gonna have like an overload of houses.
Maybe a growth in that area too.
Mhm.
13% of is the number of people that's actually gonna buy
Buy houses
in
this
this year.
That sounds about right. So we've got our 3 demand factors. I see them as 3 people standing there holding hands. You got an old person standing there holding hands with a baby, which is holding hands with a, it's supposed to be employed person, but I said unemployed because they got time to stand there. But still, just think of them as they're really employed. Baby, old person, unemployed person, which is employed. So you've got 4 supply factors, 3 demand factors. They're going to have a question on that test that says, which of the following is not a supply factor? And if you've got that picture in your head and they say government policy, fiscal policy, population growth,
Population growth,
and cost of materials.
population growth.
With this picture in your mind, you can pick out the one that doesn't belong on that list. That's what I try to do with these memory crutches, because there's so much stuff here you've got to learn. I think there's about 4,000 pieces of information that you pick up in a real estate class, and they're going to test you on 100 of them. So if we can group them together like this, there's 7 of them right there that we just all grouped together. And they're probably going to ask you a question right off of this one. Okay, let's look at this. Which of the following is not a supply factor?
Labor, no.
Supply factor, construction cost?
Not a supply factor.
Well, not a supply factor.
But we need
Construction.
labor.
Construction
Now, look
cost.
at your picture. You got a construction worker with a golden nail driving it through the White House into the Federal Reserve. So,
Employment rates.
So labor.
labor availability, you standing there, you see that one's on the list of
Yeah.
supply. Unemployment rates. Oh, I
Yeah.
believe that was the one standing over here holding hands with
Yeah.
Demand.
That's
So-
demand.
There's our answer.
Yep.
The other two was construction costs, that was on our first list, the golden nail, and the other one's physical policy, that's where it went through the White House into the
Is
Federal
that how you
Reserve.
pronounce it? I always said fiscal.
Fiscal,
Fiscal.
fiscal,
Okay.
Fiscal.
yeah, fiscal.
Fiscal rate.
CMA. Don't use those words when you're talking to your customers. They don't know what a CMA is. You say comparative market analysis. I'm a professional.
I'm a CMA.
Yes, I wanna do a CMA for you. They say, huh?
Comps.
Yeah, comps, they don't know that one either. I'm gonna make up a list of all the properties that are sold around your home, and we'll be able to come up with a good price for you. Your CMAs are not as detailed as an appraisal. An appraisal gets right down to how big is this room. Your CMA is how big is the whole house. And you can't call it an appraisal, even though you think you've done as much work as an appraiser, and you should be paid $400 like the appraiser. You can't call it an appraiser unless you're licensed. 3 words associated with value. One is what is just the word value. This is a wonderful value.
It's not concrete.
Exceptional value. Best value in town. That's an opinion.
Yeah, it's not
Cost.
concrete.
Yeah, that's an opinion. That's just what you think it's worth. Next one is price. That's where the rubber hits the road. You got your checkbook out and you wrote a check. That's price. The next one is cost. What did it cost to build this building or this house? What did it cost at the time? You think that's, at the time it was built, you think that's got any relation to what it's worth now?
No.
No. So value, price, and cost are only related when the house first came out of the ground.
Right, so brand new.
Your brand new, your construction cost, your value, your price, all are pretty much in line. 20 years out, cost doesn't have anything to do with it. A CMA, broker price opinion, that's another word for it, that banks don't want to pay $400 to get an appraisal done on a house. They just repossessed 10 houses around here. And they don't want to spend $400 on each one to get an appraiser to go out there and say, here's my opinion of what it's going to sell for.
Nope, you go out there and take pictures.
They're going to come to real estate agents and they'll send us a fax. Y'all want to give us a BPO, broker price opinion, on these 10 houses. We'll pay you $50 a piece. Well,
Betty Miner does a lot of that.
Even if one of them's worth 100, it's still gonna be.
It's just a
yeah,
BPO.
they'll pay you $50 to do it, but they're not just calling you. They're calling 2 or 3 other real estate brokerages and saying, hey, how about giving us a BPO on these 10 houses? Hey, y'all give us a BPO on these 10 houses, and they'll look at them, and
They'll make their own
Combine.
decision.
now they got a pretty good idea of what it's going to sell for, and they only paid $150.
Yeah, 'cause basically it's like 12 pictures I think you take and just a structure,
Pretty
drive-by.
straight, pretty
And then you take
straightforward.
them. Yeah,
So where's the money at? And where's the money at?
Well,
Right now, where's the money at?
brand new agents will do that because they need to practice on doing
And they need to know the neighborhood.
comparisons. They need to learn, and they can pick up a little gas money doing that. You might even, like Betty, somebody mentioned Betty Miner.
Yeah, she had her own division. that
She
does
was like the queen of this.
foreclosure.
But she would get the listing too,
Mhm.
because she just had that kind of, she built a relationship with them. She gave them good values, good opinions, and they got to where they trusted her. And they said, okay, how about you list these 10 for us and see if you can sell them for this price. And she did, and she got more and more and more. So you can build your business through that. It'd be a tough road, but it's quick money when you're first getting into the business. And this little article that they wrote, I said, who wrote this? Real Estate Appraisers Board. And it's just telling you that, you know, it's different from an appraisal. It doesn't have the same rules behind it. All right, we talked about the picture on the wall earlier. Maria is our memory technique on how attached is this. Is it real property or personal property? And it's going to depend on how close Maria's standing to it. Maria is the method of attachment. All right, we took that whiteboard that I hung over there. I put some screws in the wall. Does that really attach that
No.
permanently?
Nope.
I think I could probably take that off and get some spackling and fill those little holes in and get the matched paint, and you'd never know it was there. But what if I had a built-in something there, cut a big hole in the wall and built all this mirror stuff in there, like a wet bar.
Safe.
That's what we need, is a wet bar in
That'd be
our
nice.
classroom. Would that be attached differently? The method of attachment there is totally different. That would probably stay with the property. Next thing, the adaptability for purpose. Same thing there. This is, you know, we're going to draw on this, and when we're through with it, we'll take it down. With the wet bar, whoever moves in here, they probably rather have a wet bar than a whiteboard. So, adaptability, maybe we just keep that. Relationship of the parties. This one is important between like relatives or arm's length. You may want to leave Grandma's chandelier for your cousin that buys a house from you. Maybe not.
I'm taking it with me.
Maybe take it with you. Then that would go to intention of the parties. I intended, when I hung Grandma's chandelier up there, I hung it with zip ties. I didn't even attach it to the roof. I just hung it. It's hanging by the wires. Just take these loose and it's gone. I didn't intend on this to stay. That's where this usually turns in the court. What were your intentions when you put this here? Well, I put in an above ground pool, or I put in an in-ground pool. I intended it for it to be here a long time, or maybe not. So your intentions, it's going to turn on that. And then the agreement of the parties. What are we going to write in the contract? Because the contract says it all. If it's here in the contract, that's what we're going to do.
All in language.
All in the language. Here's what I want you to leave the in-ground pool. Well, you probably wouldn't. I want you to leave the above-ground pool. You wouldn't have to write leave the in-ground pool, would you? Because you intended on that to stay there. Doesn't matter about your relationship or
One of
method
the things
attach-
I remember reading was a bay for cars.
Yes.
Because they had built the bay for cars, you know, to come in and service them, you know, beside the house. So, you know, it's really basically that was the end of the contract was, you know, that bay was there for them to have extra business and that sort of deal. But they wanted to take the bay out, you know, because that's their business too. But you know,
Better
the
write it in the
method of
contract.
attachment, you know, you can remove it if you want to, but do they want it?
Yeah, how was it attached? Did they have to dig a hole, put hydraulic jacks down there?
Just
or
with big steel things, you know, with the, you know, that, but, I mean, they ended up leaving it, but it was just one of those kind of things where, you know, they wanted to take it with them, because it's a lot of money,
Yeah,
you know, the lifts and all that.
then we
But
better write in the contract. Okay, Maria, that's another one of your memory crutches. Personal property. Tangible, we talked about this, that you can touch it, it's movable. Here's another word they use for personal property, chattels. Chattel's a vocabulary word that you need to know because they throw it in there. Chattel, cattle, moves. I'm gonna give credit to the prep agent guy. If y'all, there's a link on our website to the prep agents study stuff. I recommend him. That's where I stole that from. So thank you, prep agent.
So what's a chattel?
Chattel is personal property. So cattle would be personal property. Cattle moves. So cattle moves.
Pool table.
Pool table, I think would be what?
Make it,
Personal
move.
property.
I think that would be personal property, but I would write it in the contract. In fact, if I was representing the buyer, what would I write in there?
Pool table.
Pool table
Stay.
to remain, yes. That's what I'm gonna write, pool table to remain.
You have to buy your own cue sticks and balls.
Yeah,
Goes up
yeah,
to
start out with new stuff. In fact, seller to replace felt on pool table, I don't know. Whatever it says in the contract is what we're gonna do. But title to personal property is gonna be transferred with a bill of sales. Like if they, you may have a piece of lakefront property and you got a pontoon boat out there. Well, if I see the pontoon boat, I'm gonna write in the contract, pontoon boat to remain. And then you need to write at no value. Because if you don't write at no value, then when the appraiser, he gets a contract, he gets a copy of the contract, and it says, pontoon boat to remain. He's got to say, okay, pontoon boat, what is that worth? And he's going to have to assign a value to the pontoon boat, which is going to come off of your appraised value. So you always say, at no value. And then he just ignores it. But then when you go to closing, you need a bill of sale to transfer the ownership of that pontoon boat over to you. Yes, sir.
So when you buy that property with the dock, and it says the dock's, that's your dock, but if you don't have, and the boat, then the pontoon boat's sitting there, but he doesn't have it in the contract, he says, I'm taking my pontoon boat.
Absolutely, he's going to take it with him.
But if it's not in the contract that he says it verbally, can you take him to court and take it?
It's still his
No,
property.
yeah, if it's not in the contract, it didn't happen. Now, the pontoon boat, how was it attached? With a rope? What was your intention? Did you
Take
intend, did you intend to leave that boat with them? Did you ever talk about the boat? I'm gonna write it in the contract. Pontoon boat to remain.
So they don't have a sidewalk.
And regulations, you have to go by the regulations of your state.
Yeah,
Because if you fail to comply with the regulations of the state on any section of it, the statute of it,
messed up.
you must have.
Alright, so that's, we're gonna put it in a contract. Trade fixtures. Alright, let's just say you've got a restaurant that you are leasing from your business. You got a jewelry store.
Yes.
In your jewelry store, you've got some really nice cabinets that you didn't want people coming in and stealing the cabinets, so you screwed them to the floor. How are they attached? Is that permanent?
Nope.
Did he intend to leave those when he
But if
left
he's
that?
selling it for the purpose of a jewelry store, but it still is, if you're gonna buy it as a jewelry store,
It's a trade fixture.
It's a trade
it goes
fixture.
with your,
It goes with my
Trade.
business.
Like in a restaurant, they've got these really nice expensive refrigerators and all this stuff, and it's all bolted in and
Trade
plumbed
fixtures.
in and
They say-
special electricity to it. When the guy moved in there, did he think he's gonna leave that when he closed his restaurant? No.
Put it somewhere else when you.
He's
open
gonna
somewhere
move
else.
it to a better
Sell it.
location. Yeah, or, so, the deal with it is, when you take it out, you've got to repair any damage. Like you had all this stuff done, you gotta fix the holes in the wall, you got to do everything to get it back the way it was when you took it.
like a oven baked pizza, I remember something about that, how you make the pizzas where they have the concrete that go in them and you bake the pizzas
Okay.
like that. And that's a trade fixture, but how are you gonna repair that because it costs so much money to repair?
In the
Or are you just gonna
contract.
leave it?
Yeah, right, it's gonna be in the contract. Now, the thing with trade fixtures is you must have them out, as I'm talking on a lease here, you gotta have them out when the lease ends. If you leave them in there, then they become property of the owner. But if you were buying the building or selling the building, you're gonna address them in the contract. You know, sub-zero refrigerators to remain, or those are going with me. I'd make it clear. Like grandma's chandelier.
Detail.
The deal on grandma's chandelier is don't show the house with the chandelier there.
Right.
Go ahead and take it down, put a new one up there, so when the buyer walks through and they see that chandelier, what do you think they're gonna write in the contract?
They want
Chandelier to remain at no value.
Now, if it was grandma's though, and you took it,
Yeah, you need to take it out before the buyer comes through and looks at it. Alright. Got a couple of water rights here. Water rights vary depending on the type of water it is. Let's start with the first one up there, riparian. Riparian, we got a bunch of R's here. Ripples, rivers, that's a small body of water. Those type bodies of water, you own, your property goes up to the edge of the water. Now, if it's non-navigable, like it's a little lake, your property rights go to the middle. But if it's navigable, they're running barges up and down here, it stops at the water's edge. In fact, you can't even put a pier out there without getting permission from like the Army Corps of Engineers or somebody, because you'd be interfering with the traffic. The other one is called littoral. And so we got L's there. Lunar, that means the tides are affecting this body of water, it's so big. You think you'd own that to the middle of something that's that big? No. The way they look at that is you own to the high water mark. Think of the beach. You go down to the beach, Panama City, Gulf Shores, wherever down there, you see all these people walking up and down the beach. And you see people up here that got hotels, they got condos. Can they tell those people not to walk across their yard?
Mm-mm.
Why?
Because when the high top water comes
It's
up.
not their yard, that's right. The high water mark is way back up here. They probably built the building right to the edge of the high water mark.
Unless they sold it to be private.
Well, you can't sell that because only the state has got rights to that. So you can't stop these people from walking up and down in front of your condo. Even though you paid $10 million for this 1,000 square foot condo that's on the beach. You don't want those people walking in front of your place.
No,
That's my place.
No, I don't.
I don't want them there. I can't stop them. I'll back up one. Water. The water that's passing by your land on a little river, a little creek. You can use the water. You cannot pollute it. You can't stop it to where others downstream can't use it. You've got subsurface rights as well. Let's just say,
Yes.
yeah, subsurface rights would include the oil under you, natural gas, petrol, whatever's down there. You own that if you own the mineral rights. Nobody around here owns their mineral rights. They're owned by U.S. Steel, Drummond Coal, all the people that bought them a long time ago. Those rights are pertinent with that property. Just because a new owner bought it doesn't mean they can come out and put an oil well down in their backyard. Also, you have rights to sublateral. Sublateral means below ground support. I've got a house right here, and you want to put a building right next to me, but you want to go down you want to have a 5-story basement down there. You start digging down beside my house and it falls over. That's not right, is it? So I've got the right for you to keep my building supported there while you're doing this. I can't stop you from doing it, but you can't let my building fall over. You got rights to the airspace above you up to reasonable height. You can't call Delta and say, I want you to stop flying over my house. No.
I was wondering that about the airspace. Do you own,
That
is
belongs
that
to
ownable?
the US
Cause I
government.
thought it was like that.
The only rules on airplanes are not allowed to fly below 500 feet above people or structures.
500?
500
That's
feet.
it?
That's your rule.
That's pretty low.
Again, I was taking a lockbox off of a house
You
just
still
south
own
of the Shelby County Airport.
Mm.
There's a little community there, Chesapeake, I think it's called.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right there, right at the end of the runway. And I was out there taking the lockbox off. An old plane came over. I got jumped up and hit his wheels. He was that close. And I'm thinking, I thought it was 500 feet you're supposed to be up there. It just seemed closer.
Yeah.
And I'm imagining if you're at the end of the runway and those jets are taking off, it doesn't matter if they're 500 or 5,000, you're going to hear them. But you don't have the right to stop them from flying over you. There's a new law or new rights coming up, solar rights. You're going to see more and more of that, about you've got the right to get the sunshine for your solar panels. This was back in 2009, they ruled on this. Somebody over somewhere near Montgomery, there was a tree on the property line, and they wanted it cut down because they were afraid it's going to fall on their house. So they said, I want the tree cut down. The neighbor said, no, we like the tree. We don't want it cut down.
Keep it in your yard.
So one of them sued the other one, and the court said, no, the tree's fine. You can't cut it down just because you want it to. Half of it belongs to the other neighbor. You can't take just half the tree, so they made them leave the tree.
What happened to the tree when it fell? Who had to pick it
Yeah,
up?
I'm wondering, because that was in
Depends on
2009.
what side it fell on, I know, right?
Yeah.
Honestly,
I hope it
just
fell on
split
the
in
one that
half.
said, no, I don't want it cut down.
Right. Not the one.
As is, these big words,
Yeah.
great big impact. I put a little red line over here on the important part.
Caveat
Caveat
emptor.
emptor means let the buyer beware. I don't know if we talked about that. Yeah, I think we talked about that in the law. But what it says is if you sell a house and you say you're buying this as is, that means you bought it as is. All the faults and everything that's wrong with it, you got them. Got termites? They're yours. Got this wrong with it, that wrong with it, now they're your problems. This case turned on fraudulent representation. They knew something was wrong and they told them, no,
Bad faith.
no, there's nothing wrong with it. That was not as is, that was fraud. That's what this whole thing was about. I don't know, the inspector looked at it, just if you buy it as is, it's supposed to bar all fraud claims.
Now,
Aren't you supposed to have an inspector look at
You
everything?
should.
So
You got
isn't it
cash.
inspector fault?
Well, if the inspector didn't find it, he's got a 3-page disclaimer at the first of the inspection report saying,
I'm not responsible.
I'm not
Are you gonna
responsible.
point it out to the inspector? Hey, if you're
Seller's not.
No.
No. All of this stuff on the website, all of these PowerPoints are on the website. And when you open it up in PowerPoint, there's a button down there that says slideshow. It's a little picture of the screen. You click on that and it brings it up full screen like this. And all of these, you can bring them up bigger. You can go to the source and all the little web links are all active. So it's a little hard to read this on the handouts you've got, but you can go here and blow it up bigger and look at it. Methods of valuation by an appraiser. The appraiser is a CSI investigator. Remember that, he's looking for evidence. All the evidence that I need to build my case. CSI investigator. The C is cost approach. That's where he's gonna probably look in a book that says houses in this type construction are worth $100 a square foot. To rebuild this house, it's 1,000 square feet at $100 a square foot. My cost estimate to rebuild this house is $100,000. So there he's got one piece of his, he's got to use all three of these. In your broker price opinion or your CMA, your comps, you don't have to use all three. You're just going to use the S part. That's our next one, the sales comparison. You're going to look and see what is sold around here that's kind of like this one in the last maybe 6 months, a year. Where you don't want to go too far out. You want to get out far enough to where you've got enough to look at. If you've got 6 or 8 properties, 10 properties, you can get a good idea. If there's only one that's been sold in the last year, it's hard to say this is like that one. But that's where you're getting your S from, the C, S, and then the I is our income approach. We did that in finance and in math. That's the capitalization rate. We took our monthly rate, our monthly rent, times 12. That gives us an annual rent. And we want a capitalization rate of, say, 10%. We divide the 10% into the rent, and that gives us a value for the property. Sometimes appraisers will call us and say, what do properties rent for around here? And they're pulling in the gross rent multiplier. And that gives them a kind of a check and balance on what things are worth. But they're after the CSI. Now they reconcile it by saying, okay, we're dealing with residential property. The most important out of those would be which one?
Oh, the residential property?
Yeah.
I would say the house
Sales.
The sales, yes. Now, if we were dealing with commercial property around here, which one's most important to
the
us?
cap rate.
Probably the cap rate, the income. What can I get out of this as rent? There's probably not a bunch of them that have sold around here. Just like in residential, there's not a bunch of them around here. You can say this cap rate of this.
Inflation.
Yeah, neither one of them are going to put much weight on cost. But he's got the appraiser. He's got to look at cost and got to factor it in, and they reconcile these. All right, if it's residential, he may say, all right, I'm putting 90% of my value on residential sales around here. I'm going to put 5% on cost because they can $100 a foot, $1,000. So putting about 5% on this, and then there are some rentals around here, and we can value it that way. But I'm not putting much weight on it. He's putting most of his value, his opinion on what's sold around here. We kind of, just in our outline, we covered most of the stuff that we need to cover here. There's our sales comparison, more detail. Appraiser looks all that up. Now appraisers, y'all have got a 60-hour class here to get your real estate license. That covers everything you need to know about real estate. An appraiser has 2,500 hours of just doing appraisals. Yeah, I really know.
It's a lot. How much they get paid?
About $400 per appraisal. A bigger house, more money, but about $400 is what they're going to get. It can't be based on the value of the house like our commissions are, because what would he want to do? Appraise it for more money. So it's got to be fee-based. Banks, if it's a federally related transaction, that means a bank was involved, basically. You've got federal touching it in some way. has to be done by a licensed appraiser. This is what an appraisal looks like. You see this, the cost approach he's got up here, the sales comparison all through here, and he gets into more detail on when it sold, what kind of sale it was. Was it a family transaction? Was it an arm's length? Was it a foreclosure? He factors all that in. And then there's this reconciliation. It says the cost, he put very little on that. Most of his weight was on the sales comparison, which most of them, that's the way it's going to be. That's what an appraisal looks like. On our cost approach, you won't hardly ever use one of these. I've never used one of them. But if you were an appraiser, you'd have to do it. You have to start out with the value of the land. What is the land worth? Highest and best use. Now, what's on this land? Is this the best thing for it? What's the value of this? What can we build another one like this for? It's a block building, just block. Well, that's not going to be as expensive as one that's like glass and brass. It's going to be a different cost.
Yeah, they use cost approach for like schools and churches like you have
right
there, libraries.
That's where you're going to use that. Government buildings, that kind of thing, that would be done as a cost. And then you take out your depreciation, not accounting depreciation. That's a different kind of depreciation. You're taking out actual physical depreciation because you haven't been taking care of the place, haven't been painting it, the roof needs replacing, all those things. You pull that value down from it. And then your value of the land, which is going to be pretty much carved in stone. And you come up with your estimated. Now the two words you need to know in this is replacement and reproduction. Replacement value is using current methods. Let's just say this building, half of it burned off before they got the fire put out. Well, the landlord is probably going to want to rebuild back here. So they would use current methods. They wouldn't go back to this building that was built in 1970 and do everything just like it was in 1970. They're going to use current methods, current materials, current codes, just everything just current. That's replacing it.
Oh, coming from the old gone with the old.
Yeah, and just bring in the new, and it's going to look pretty much like this, but it's going to be current methods. The other one is reproduction. Reproduction would be like it was a historical building, and part of it burned off. Well, you're going to try to get the same kind of lumber, and you're going to try to, get the same kind of light fixtures, and you're going to try to bring it back to his historical state. I look at it this way as, think of it as replacement is you are adopting. Reproduction, you're making another one just like you. Exactly same, say exactly like you is reproduction. Replacement is adopting. Easiest is cost of materials. Like we talked about the appraisals, okay, these buildings around here about $100 a square foot, boom, 100,000, that's what it's worth. We talked about curable and incurable. Curable is just deferred maintenance. That's where you didn't paint, but we can come out here now and scrape the side of the building, put some waterproofing on it and put another coat of paint, it'll be okay. But then you've got incurable. That's where the foundation, they didn't know that they were supposed to dig down through the topsoil and get down to the hard dirt before they put the footing. They just put rocks on top of the topsoil and started building up from there. And now the whole, what's that building, Tower of Pisa?
Yeah.
Yeah, is that curable? No, that's pretty much going to be there. We've already talked about obsolescence, internal. Okay, income approach, we don't need to stop here, but we can look at this one. This is our income return on investment, ROI, how you're going to get the capitalization value of a building. We look, what would an investor pay? that would be our monthly rate times the month. Don't let them trip you up there now, because they're gonna say you're getting $4,000 a quarter on rent. And the buildings, the investors want a cap rate of 10%. Well, you gotta convert that rent to an annual before you divide it by the 0.1, and that would give you the value of the building. There it is. There's your CSI appraiser. So just keep that in mind. CSI, he's looking for the evidence to come up with the value for his file. Title, clear title, affecting title, recordation, title insurance, deeds, will, court ordered sale, that's a foreclosure. Let's run through this. Definition of clear title. The seller only has to do one thing, and that's give you clear title to this property. That's all they got to do. Things that affect title. We talked earlier about the deal we're working on right now with that man that he hadn't paid his property taxes in 5 years. He may not have title to that house, property anymore. That's going to affect his ability to provide clear title. He may not be able to sell it. Recording, that's called constructive notice. That's when you take the deed to the courthouse and put it in the public records. That way anybody else that comes behind can look at the public records and say, oh, here's who owned it, here's who owns it now. That's recording. When you record something, you have to have it notarized. That's called acknowledged. Title insurance protects for something that happened in the past. Like somebody forged a deed. There's some issue with the title back there. That's a cloud in the title. Title insurance will step in because they searched the title records. The public records, they looked at all of them and said, okay, we see a clear title all the way down here, and we will guarantee that this property's got clear title to it, and if it doesn't, we'll send the lawyers in to fix it. Deeds, what's required in a deed? Basically, you have a grantor. Who's that?
The one that's giving the property away.
The seller, yeah, giving, yeah, you could be giving. And you got a grantee. That's a gittee. Give or gittee.
Okay.
A deed has got to be signed by the grantor and delivered within the grantor's lifetime. The grantee has to be named in the deed, but they don't sign it. They don't have to sign it. It's got to describe the property, the consideration. It's got to have COLA in there. Something for something. Agreement, acceptance. Court-ordered sale. That's our foreclosures. At 2009, 2010, a third of the properties were foreclosures. All the sales, a third of them were foreclosures. And settlement procedures, that's how you close a transaction. The word closing means all the accounts are closed, all the money's changed hands, the promises have been fulfilled. Here we are, definition. We just went through most of this. Kind of gave you the cliff notes of it because we're right at the end of our time and y'all are wanting to go home. See if there's anything we need to cover here. We got that. Constructive notice means it's recorded. Actual notice is what you need to do on your way to closing. You need to drive by that house and make sure nobody's living in it. That's actual notice. You saw it. And if you go on to closing and close the deal, then it's up to you to get them out. These are recording fees. Recording, I don't know if we have a test question on this or not, but it costs $1 per 1,000. They've got it up here, 50 cents per 500 value of the deed or a portion thereof. It's easier to do $1 per 1,000. You got a $100,000 sale, it's going to cost you $100 to record that deed.
Would that be what we do with the seller when they're responsible for it, or would that be on our side?
Well, the deal is, does the seller care if it's recorded?
True,
No, he doesn't care. The
okay.
buyer cares that this is recorded.
So that's pretty much on the buyer.
There's also a mortgage tax, it's 15 cents per thousand. You've got two different policies on titles. You've got an owner's policy that protects the person that bought it, and you've got a lender's policy that protects the lender. If something goes wrong, they're both going to be covered. Title policies cost you about $600 per 100,000 in coverage. And on a cash sale in Alabama, the seller pays the whole cost. If there's a mortgage involved, they split the cost. That's what a title policy looks like. If you can get this first page of the last title policy when this house changed hands, you can give this to whoever's doing the title search now, and you'll get a little credit, maybe $75 credit toward the title policy, because the new company only has to search back to where these people are insuring it. Pretty sweet deal for them. That's what's covered, what's not covered. This is what title policies cost. Deeds, we just went through this. This is actually a deed somebody gave me from 1900. This is for 100 square feet of Elmwood Cemetery. I don't know how many bodies you can bury in 100 square feet. Now they're actually stacking them on top of each other. They're digging the first one down deeper, and then the second person will be buried on top of them. But this one is for 100 square feet. They paid $50 for that. And in 1900, that was a month's pay. Here's the part I want you to see. Yeah, we haven't talked, let's see.
Meets and blocks or
Yeah, we done, but it's got the description, legal description, all have and hold, all that. But what I wanted you to see was this part right here. Civil Rights Act of 1866. What does that bar? Discrimination on race on real estate. There are no exceptions. This is 1900. 35 years after the law. You see what's underlined there?
Use exclusive for the white race,
Yeah.
civil race.
That was clearly illegal in 1900. They wrote it in here.
It's, it was still there.
Well, you couldn't enforce it, but they were still
Trying to do it.
trying to do it in 1900.
That's
This is one from 1900. You see all this stuff written over here. Now here's one from 2004. Look over here and here. You see, nothing's changed. It's just the same stuff's required in a deed that was 100 years ago.
Underwriting.
Types of deed, general warranty, that's what you want, that's the best deed, that's all the guarantees. And from there you start dropping in guarantees. Like you get a foreclosure deed, that's got less protection. You get all the way down to a quit claim deed. That's what you're going to give like in a divorce normally. One spouse will sign off, I don't know what I got, but you can have it. Wills, got that. Operation Alabama is a judicial foreclosure state. That means you have got to go to court to foreclose. Some states like Georgia is not judicial. It's written in there, time if you go, you better get out. Here you got to go through court. Settlement, everything's settled, closed, and done. RESPA is the law that says no kickbacks. We've already talked about RESPA. That's a closing statement, and that's the end of it. This is a little video about the police harassing somebody down at the beach because the hotel didn't want these people sitting out in front of their hotel, and they called the police on them, and the guy knew his rights. Oh, it was kind of funny. You know, yeah, it is. A lot of stuff's funnier when you know your rights. All right, guys, we finished 1 minute early. appreciate y'all being here. And, let's see, next class is, Thursday night. That will be, ownership.
Have a good night.
All right, see ya. Thanks for being here.
Thank
Here,
you.
bud.